Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 3.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Norberg. I'm a member of SMART Local Union 18. Like most of us, I come from a family that was fully consumed in defeating fascism 72 years ago. They taught me I have two presidents, President of the USA and a President of the AFL-CIO. Now I only have one president. He works at 815 16th Avenue Northwest. In remembrance of my family, I want to point out that we live in a country now that has persistent and pervasive nationalism, has a disdain for human rights, likes to use skateboards to divide us, and is a home of rampant sexism. We live in a country that worships the supremacy of the military, condemns mass media, is obsessed with national security, and wants to entwine religion and government. We live in a country where corporate power is protected, labor power is suppressed, there's a disdain for intellectuals, there's an obsession with crime and mostly punishment, there's rampant cronyism and corruption, and fraudulent elections and voter suppression is common. These are the 14 classic traits of a fascist government. I'll leave it for you to gauge how deeply we're involved in these. My family also taught me that the way to handle a weasel is before he gets in your house. There's an orange-faced weasel sticking his nose in our house right now. It's time to push him out of our house, out of our community, and out on his ass on Pennsylvania Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Mark. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 2.
Good afternoon. My name is Clint Burleson. I'm a member of the American Postal Workers Union, one of the signatories to this resolution that we urge you to support. The brother talked about corporate and the state together. That's what I normally think of fascism. But the other part that I think I wanted to raise was the racism that goes along with fascism. And I think we have to have more education on this. A lot of white folks think, well, you had slavery, and then after that, everything should be fine. But that's not the case. We need to teach the history of the Jim Crow discrimination. We need to teach the history of the terror that was inflicted upon black people of this country. Lynchings, horrible atrocities committed, really. And that continued on and on and on and still continues to this day. The discrimination in terms of mortgages and not having that kind of equity in the homes that allowed white people to make some progress. The discrimination that goes on in healthcare, as Martin Luther King alluded to. The discrimination that goes on into the justice system where black and brown people are disproportionately pulled over, given higher sentences and put into jail. So this history that still continues to this day needs to be educated. We need to educate our brothers and sisters on this so they have a better understanding of the atrocities that accompany racism, and we need to fight as a union to eliminate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 1.
Thank you, Brother Chair. Mark Dimmenstein, American Postal Workers Union. I hesitated to get up because I spoke at the end of the morning session, and I don't like to speak too much from the mic. And the speaker spoke eloquently on this issue, and I support the leadership and the Resolutions Committee for bringing them forward. But this resolution is very deeply personal to me, number 47. Most of my family was wiped out by Hitler-led fascism, but I want to tell a personal story, and there have been many powerful personal stories over the last few days. My dad was a highly decorated World War II veteran flying 64 combat missions, dealing with world fascism like so many millions others. And history moves on. And I'm concerned that so many people do not know what Hitler-led fascism meant to the world and the devastation that it caused. He was one of those many millions under the Allied powers of Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States that it took to stop world fascism at the cost of 80 million human lives. And we need to be reminded that one of Hitler's main actions when they first took power was to ban unions, to persecute, jail, and kill people like us in this room. Now, the story of my dad. I was raised differently than many. When he came back from World War II, started families, jobs, and so on, the conventional wisdom was that Hitler was one madman and fascism could never happen in the democratic United States. I was lucky to be raised differently. He always raised us, my two sisters and I, that if we are not vigilant, fascism can indeed take power in the United States of America. And the way things are going now, sisters and brothers, he was right to warn us and to be vigilant. Because if we're not careful, fascism will come here. It's accelerating. It didn't start 9 months ago. The Patriot Act started before that and some other long-term repressive measures, but it's accelerating. And Charlottesville shows us that. We stand for in our unity lies our strength. Who better to take a stand for unity and against division, against those torchbearers egged on by this White House who are saying Jews will not replace us, that blacks will not replace us, immigrants will not replace us. This is like Germany probably in 1930, 31, 32. So we are the best to be part of the answer, to condemn this rising fascism, this neo-Nazism, to support those who are resisting, and to be part of that, sisters and brothers. This is part of our core values. For in our unity does lie our strength. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Fred Redmond, a member of the United Steelworkers Union and the chairman of the board of the National A. Philip Randolph Institute. You know, one of the things that Charlottesville taught us is that under this administration in Washington, there's no consequences for people to wear their pointed hoods or show their swastikas on tattoos on their chest. And we have seen a erosion of values coming out of this administration that tells people that it's all right to express those radical views. One of the things that we've learned as we went around the country with the Race Commission is that it's important that we discuss these issues with our members, is that we have these discussions throughout our labor movement, and we hope that the culmination of the Race Commission does not stop us from having those discussions. So I just want to encourage the delegates, if you go on AFL-CIO's website, under the Civil Rights link, is that you can find a full copy of the Race Commission report. You can find our executive summary, but more importantly, we have put together some training materials that's very valuable when it comes to how to have these difficult discussions within our respective unions. And I think it's fundamental that we continue the dialogue, because the only way that we eradicate racism throughout this movement is we have to talk about it. We have to have those difficult discussions and bring people together to share, okay, their thoughts, their feelings, and I think that's the only way that we're going to get to a point where we have true unity and we eradicate issues of fascism, Islamophobia, and racism from our movement. So I just want to encourage everybody to view the work of the Race Commission and use the materials that we put together that we think will help us further eradicate our movement of people that harbor these views. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Brother Fred. Chair recognizes the delegate at mic 3.
Lori Pelletier, Connecticut AFL-CIO. In 1939, at the rise of the American fascist movement and the American Nazi Party, then Vice President Henry Wallace said, and I quote, "They claim to be super patriots, but they would destroy every liberty guaranteed by the Constitution. They demand free enterprise, but are spokesmen for monopoly and vested interests. Their final objective toward which all their deceit is directed is to capture political power so that using the power of the state and the power of the market simultaneously, they will keep common man in eternal subjugation." Brothers and sisters, if we don't know our history, we are doomed to repeat it. Thank you, Brother Chair.
Thank you, Sister Lori. The question is on the adoption of Resolutions 11 and 47. All those in favor of the resolutions signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The resolutions are